Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Victoria Real Estate Show, normally with Andrew Plank and Jane Johnston. And I'm just actually changing the brand up here. Once again, dealing with a little bit of technical support. Usually leads this, and for some reason, I'm having a hard time figuring out this background. But I've got with me today Karen Dinnie-Smyth, and I'll bring her in just a moment here. Why is this? Okay, we'll just bring that banner off. Karen, my apologies. I'm really...
Not a problem at all, Andrew.
Okay. Overlay. Take that down. Well, you know, there we are. I'm not sure where the... Oh, there it is. This is what I was looking for. That's not going to work either because we got James. Let's just go with this. And so, hello, everyone. And yes, today I have with me Karen Dinnie-Smyth of the Victoria Real Estate Board, current sitting president at the board. And we're going to talk real estate. We're going to talk the real estate board. Karen, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Karen Dinnie-Smyth, and I am currently the president of the Victoria Real Estate Board. And I'm also a RE/MAX Commotion Realtor.
Excellent. Yes. And you've been doing real estate for
31 years.
31 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's twice my time. Karen is one of the realtors I've known since I got licensed, and have super high respect for Karen, and I mean many of my colleagues, but she's always been someone I've really respected. And during my time at the real estate board as a director, got to know her quite well, and that respect just deepened. And also just the affection and care. So Karen, you're a great person.
Thank you, Andrew. We have fun together, so yes.
Yeah, we do. I do miss our time together at the board.
Yes.
So Karen's going to talk to us today about the real estate, organized real estate, how many people, including realtors, Karen, you mentioned earlier, we have how many new realtors since 2015?
1,000. So 1,000 new realtors entering the market since 2015. Right.
And of course, there's realtors coming out at the same time, but that's still quite a large number. We have around
just over 1,600.
1,600 realtors currently as members of the board. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
which is
quite a turnover.
Yeah, which is the highest we've had since the early 1990s. I think 1992, 93, we reached this number.
Okay.
And then yes, so we haven't been there. And then I think we decreased down in around the end of the 90s, and we haven't seen these numbers again since then.
But do you have any idea what that might have been? Why these numbers go up and down?
Typically market related. When the market gets extremely active, people see that activity increase in the market and think it's a good industry to get in. And then when the market goes down or stays down for a period of time, which is what we saw in the 90s, that's when we lose people again.
So when people don't want to work.
or it's it's a slog. We have birthday cakes for our properties when they've been on the market for a year, and those types of things. And so yes. There
you go. So Karen, you sent me some things you wanted to talk about, and you wanted to sort of that's not gonna work. You wanted to sort of take it away and we'll discuss.
Yeah, and you just interject and ask me questions at any time. I just wanted to bring up, I think for everybody's attention, I think there's confusion amongst the public, and I think there's certainly confusion even amongst the realtors of how we work and who's involved. So we have these 3 columns, and the columns are the boards. And in BC, we have 8 real estate boards now. I don't know if you know that, Andrew, but we amalgamated a bunch of boards in the interior. So
okay.
there were 11, and we're now down to 8. And then those boards form part of them BCREA, so British Columbia Real Estate Association. And we'll get into a little bit on what they do in a minute. And then CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association. So those are the 3 pillars of real estate, organized real estate. And then, of course, we have BCFSA, British Columbia Financial, whatever they're called.
It's a mouthful.
Yes, it's a mouthful. Sorry.
They're the legislatures.
Yeah, they're our regulators, and so they took over being our regulators in August of last year. So what do each of those do? So BCREA is our provincial, so that's the ones that we have most interaction with. Trevor Coots, who was a licensed realtor and then became managing broker and then was the CEO of 2 of the interior boards at the same time, if you can believe it, before they did the amalgamation. He joined the ranks last year as chair of BCREA. So he's now in charge of us, has lots of real estate background, really strong into consumer protection and really strong in moving the profession forward. So excellent guy to have at the realm right now. He, of course, came in April of last year and then got hit with the announcement of the cooling off period. So he had a quick interjection in there. But their advocacy. So they are our strong advocates for realtors within the province. They deal with government liaison with the province. Economics, Brendan Ogmanson, of course, most realtors know, and Andrew, you'll certainly know Brendan very well, and he does fabulous analytics for us all and provides us with lots of economic status and things, updates and things, so he's great. BCREA is also assigned... Carry on, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if anyone ever wants to see what or is looking for stats, and Brent does a little talk once a month, I think it is, and talks through the stats, but also provides them. And he's usually pretty entertaining and has a good amount of stuff to say. Yeah,
he provides really good, and he makes it fun as well. He's not at all boring. And we as presidents actually meet with him at the first of every month to find out what's gone on in our respective markets. So he gets all of that intake. Both he looks at the actual numbers, but we also talk about what's happening on the street from a realtor's point of view as to how those numbers translate, because they don't always translate, as I've heard you and Jane talking about many times. What you see as physical numbers aren't necessarily representative of what we're feeling or knows going on the street.
Yeah, there's the fingers on the pulse versus looking at the overall.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the numbers at this point?
Yeah, let's bring that in, because Jane and I often do right off the bat to talk numbers, and this is just a perfect time to talk it. We just have the last week's numbers, so we're going to go through that. Let's see here. Looks like things are going a little, but I just did hit add to the stream. Okay, so bring this up over here. I think I have ordered a new computer because I've been doing a lot more video lately and things are really slow. What are you seeing there? Can you see the stats?
I could. You bought them, went back to you and I, but originally before you said it, there they are. They're there now, Andrew. So everybody should be able to see them. Can you see them okay, Andrew?
Okay. They keep falling out again. I think that's
okay. They're permanent for me,
and that's fine. So I can see them on my own screen otherwise, but not on our shared screen. So let's go with it.
Okay, yeah, I can see them. So I'm assuming everybody else watching can see them as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So what we've got, tell you what. Okay. Yeah, I can see that my internet connection is pretty low, and unfortunately that seems to be causing some problems.
Yeah, it's working with the save.
Why don't I take the column, the upper. Okay, so 317 net unconditional sales in the past. So far this month, and here we are at September 26th. That compares to 761 for the full month of September last year. So obviously we're not quite there in terms of being, we've got quite a few lower sales than we had last year. And we're really seeing that on the ground. What are you hearing from our colleagues, Karen, about what the market's doing in terms of sales?
Yeah, slow, definitely slow, although spotty still. So it's interesting. In some areas, there'll be multiple offers still, but generally speaking, slow. And certainly from a personal aspect with new listings, quite staggering how few showings there are on some of these listings. But as I say, then you put something on in a different area and there'll be multiple offers.
Right.
And I think, certainly that's what I've been hearing from the street.
I've seen properties listing that, last year would have just gone immediately to multiple offers. And they just sit there, and nobody's picking them up. And it's really, and there are prices that you wouldn't have seen last year either.
Yes.
Or at least you wouldn't have thought you could, you would have seen, but maybe you wouldn't have been able to get it at because of, again, multiple offers over asking price. So it's interesting. But, new listings are really on par. When we look at the next level down, 943 new listings so far this month versus 978 for the full month of September in 2020.
Yeah, what's interesting about that stat, Andrew, is at this stage in the market, I mean, yes, we are up on total active listings, but we're still substantially below where I would expect us to be on active listings based on the sort of slowness of sales. I would expect the active listings to be considerably higher.
I think that our active listings number is slowly moving up.
Yep, slowly.
But it is slowly, and the more selection there is on market, the more people I think who have been on the sidelines are finding properties that are of interest to them, or the property prices are coming to a point that are of interest to them. So the equilibrium, I don't think the equilibrium is far away. But that being said, the rising interest rates are also another balancing factor and cooling factor that I think we're seeing. Yeah.
Well, and general economic uncertainty for people.
Absolutely. And like the cost of the pump, the cost of the grocery store, plus higher interest rates just really does sort of cause people to pause or reconsider.
I just snuck back in. I know you have electric, but I just snuck back in on diesel before those prices went up on the weekend. So
yeah, went and got yourself a full tank.
I went and got a full tank. I didn't know it was happening. It was just fluke. So I think there was I think the co-op was having a charity event, so that so much went to, if you went and filled up. So I thought perfect opportunity to go and fill up. And then the next day the prices went up. So it worked out well.
That's a good segue, although we'll circle back to the segue is, one of the things the real estate board does is a lot of charitable events and a lot of community involvement. So I just want to comment on that. And, you just mentioning that just illustrates again that, our community of realtors really does like to give back. And, you going to the co-op because it's a charity event to fill up, obviously you have to fill up, and you got lucky, but it's also something that you're doing for the.
Yeah, I heard it on the radio, and it was a very deliberate, I think I probably had, I would have gone another couple of 100 kilometers before filling up. And I heard that though. And I just thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity to go in and fill up right now and do some good for the local community as well. It's great when you hear local community that it's not just charity, it's for local effect. So, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So next we were talking about active listings. And so currently we have 2,284 active listings on market as of today, Monday, September 26, 2022. And last year we were at 1,124. So it seems like, oh my gosh, we've doubled our inventory. That's horrible. But, we have been saying, for quite some time that we're really low on inventory. And would you agree that we're still quite low on inventory?
We are. Typically if you saw sales like this, and I can't remember, I was looking at the charts and how long ago it was. I mean, it was a while ago when we were seeing sales around 2011 of 317. We would be up well into the 3,000 range. So we are still historically low on active listings, but we're historically low on supply everywhere. So it's not just our active listings, it's general supply. There's, nothing new coming on. So, yeah. Are you there, Andrew?
Of actual, that's another whole. Can you hear me?
I'm losing you. You keep fading in and out.
Oh no.
Okay, you sound all right now. Oh, gone again. Maybe I'll.
Sorry about
now I can
again,
hear
folks.
you. I've lost you again, Andrew. Why don't I just run through the numbers quickly and then you can jump in when you can? So we're going down to the new listings. So we've had 274 new listings this month. This week. Yeah, I've completely lost Andrew, and now the stats have gone as well. But okay, I'll keep going through here. So we had last week we had pending, so 99, 159 price decreases, and that's something we obviously haven't seen in a very long time. 3 price increases. Properties that came back onto the market were 5, sold 73, and expired. So went through their listing period time and didn't sell. We're at 44. And again, those are numbers that we wouldn't have seen for quite a while. So we can definitely see a change in the market, but a great time for buyers to jump in and buy. And yes, there are obviously some qualification issues with the price points being where they are and the interest rates being where they are, but more time to think, few more properties on the market to look at, and as I say, a much more pleasant buying experience for most people. So I'm going to keep on going until we get Andrew back again. I'm going to keep talking about the pillars. So I was talking about BCREA, and we were sort of talking about economics, standard forms, and legally speaking, so they provide realtors with legal updates. So this is information that's coming from our regulator, BCFSA, and they come forward and let the realtors know what's going on, what changes there have been in laws, what changes there have been in regulations, and make sure that we all stay abreast of all of those things. Media relations is a big one. And this is, as I say, so it goes back to the advocacy, but media relations is a big one for BCREA and for realtors. So they talk with our provincial government a lot of the time. So they're talking about increased housing supply for continuum, implementing policies to ensure realtors and first-time home buyers. Just one moment. Karen speaking. Hi.
Sorry, everything is running like molasses, and my computer seems to be not having any kind of good internet connection. And this is really uncommon for me, so I'm not sure what's happening. But I think this. Are you still in?
I'm still, yes. So sorry, everybody. Andrew's just explaining that he's having technical difficulties. So shall I keep on going, Andrew, until you can get back in?
I'll keep trying to get back in. And
okay.
Just do your thing, and if it's working, then please do.
All right.
It's all on you.
Okay. All right. And so again, sorry to everybody. Andrew's just going to keep trying to come back in. And in the meantime, I'll keep on talking. So you'll have to just listen to me for now. Okay. Bye-bye. So sorry about that. Yeah. So implementing policies to ensure that renters, first-time home buyers and move-up buyers have appropriate and affordable housing. They also have great phone and insurance plans for realtors. And there's a legal defense reserve. So if there's something going on within the real estate community, and a good example, it's a strange one, this one for the public, but it was a good example a few years ago of this where trust accounts. So there's always been trust accounts for deposits. So when a buyer, one of you lovely buyers, buys a property, your deposit goes into a trust account that can only be used for deposits. So it's safeguarded. Realtors commissions did not have that up until a few years ago. So the money went into general revenue. So if there was then a problem within the real estate firm, and a real estate firm, for whatever reason, touch wood, we haven't seen this for a while, but went out of business, the commissions went with them. So the realtors didn't actually get paid. So there was this fund put into place to ensure that that didn't happen. And the realtor went to the Supreme Court of Canada in order to make sure that there was a trust fund. So now, because of that, and because of this legal defense reserve, we have that ability for something that affects everybody within the community can apply for. Now let's talk about Victoria, obviously my favorite piece and place to work and to talk about. So what are we doing right now? Again, we talk at local level to the government. So the directors around the table meet with local MLAs. It's something called PAC days. And it's advocacy again. So it's a political action committee and it's advocacy at a local level. So we meet with MLAs. And one of the things that we actually put forward to our local MLAs, which we'd like to see happen at a federal level, is a roundtable on housing. So that would include nonprofits, social housing, financiers, realtors, developers, politicians, the gamut. So everybody who is involved in housing at any level would be included in this roundtable session. And that would be an ongoing thing to make sure that housing is there and appropriate for everybody at every level. And this isn't just market housing. When we're talking about this, I think the public generally thinks we are talking only about real estate housing and properties that we can sell. We're not. We realize that there's a need at every level for appropriate housing for people. And that's what we're discussing. So then we've spent a lot of this year obviously dealing with what was a cooling off period. They came out with that in, I want to say, November of last year. As I mentioned previously, our regulator, BCFSA, joined us in August. They took over from Real Estate Council and the Superintendent of Real Estate in August of last year. And they jumped in and took over from us. So in August, and then in November, the finance minister, Selina Robinson, came out with this cooling off period. Nothing more than that, no real details, no more information, just that there was going to be this cooling off period brought in for consumer protection. Consumer protection is wonderful and necessary, but these ideas have to be thought out and well planned so that there isn't more confusion rather than less confusion. So since then, as I say, we've spent a lot of time. Christmas and New Year was spent writing white papers and getting documents off. January hits, we hit the ground running in January. We had a message out to all of our members, for the members to come in and provide their information. We set up Zoom meetings and we had members coming in and talking to us. And then we wrote a white paper to the regulator. Then we had a meeting with the regulator as well. Hi, Andrew, you're back. Whoa.
My hair was like.
So I'm just babbling on here, but I'm just talking about the cooling off period and how that came in and how this ties into the Victoria Real Estate Board.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that happened. The announcement came out in November. Poor BCFSA, who just hit the ground with us in August, was all of a sudden completely unaware, as all of us were, because this came out of the finance minister in November at the session, and none of us knew. Nobody had any inkling that this was happening. And so there it was. So I was just saying how we were off running and spent Christmas and New Year working behind the scenes on this. There wasn't much of a Christmas and New Year this year, especially for David Langlois as president. And then how we got into the membership, calling the membership, having roundtable meetings with the membership, and then formulating a white paper. And of course, BCREA was also very involved and very strongly against the cooling off period the way it was.
It's difficult to have a cooling off period set for a future date when we don't even know what the market will be doing or how cool it will be.
Yeah. And I think where this is really relevant to any, to members of the public listening, is that the cooling off period affects you. So anybody who's selling a house, whether you're through licensed real estate or selling it by yourself, because this is regulation, it affects everybody. This isn't only realtors. So this cooling off period, as I say, now once it comes into effect in January, will affect everybody. They've now changed, because they're realizing the confusion around that name, they're now calling it the homeowner protection period.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've changed the name because they realize that it is utterly confusing with the cooling off period, because everybody's saying, well, the market's cooled off already.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And they didn't ever mean it as a financial thing. They just meant it as a way of consumers being able to have certain conditions if they wanted them.
Yeah, we just don't yet know how this is going to play out on the streets in real life, because once these legislations come into effect and we start to work with them, they always have unintended consequences. And some of the thing out and trying to understand is, there's a fee for utilizing, making use of the cooling off, the homeowner protection period. So if you choose to actually not go forward with the purchase, you will be paying a fee. I think it's what was the fee again? Do you remember?
0.5%. Yeah. So essentially it's $2,500 on $1 million.
$2,500 on $1 million to walk away from a transaction. What we don't yet know is that transaction at that point unconditional or not? If I would presume it's supposed to be, but there's a lot of things that we just don't know yet.
Yes, and the problem is this is being implemented in January 1. And of course, there's 25,000 realtors that have to be educated on this, but the regulator hasn't at this point. And again, this isn't a criticism of the regulator. This was thrown on them and they had an awful lot of things because there's documents, all of our forms have to be changed, new forms have to be added. There's still lots of regulatory and processes or procedural things to change. I mean, if you come in with an unconditional offer, you do not have contractually a right to entry. So that hasn't been worked out, even though you have the cooling off period and people assume that now allows you to have conditions during that 3-day right of rescission period. Contractually, we don't have that right because if you've come in with an unconditional offer, you don't have automatic access to the house. So there's
not a carte blanche. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not a carte blanche of, we have the cooling off period, so now we can do all of our investigations and walk away for any reason. And it's true, you can do all your investigations, but they won't include access to the house.
Yes.
Because unless you've contractually asked for that in your offer, it won't exist. And that's probably something, I mean, that's easy for us to adapt to, adding language into the contract. This is an unconditional offer. But you're going to provide access for the next 3 days for purposes of a building inspection or something like that.
But we have to they have to decide whether that's going to be done on legal documents or whether we're going to add that as a condition. So then it's not an unconditional offer. So, there's all of those procedural things that still.
Yeah. A legislated right to access, just like anything else. It's going to be interesting. And it always is interesting in this real estate thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we have organized real estate too, is because, organizations like the Victoria Real Estate Board, the other real estate boards in BC, the BC Real Estate Association and CREA, all have their own levels of advocacy. And so as individual agents, we don't, we get the benefit of the standard forms that we as a group have helped to build and develop in cooperation with the other groups. So these are really strongly well-worded, strongly used, and they're just wonderful, wonderful resources for us. We have the MLS system that is, that's a cooperative system. And Karen, I know you'd like to speak a little bit further about that, but a lot of people really don't understand some of the nuances of how this is of benefit and how the structure of the MLS system actually works. It's not just a webpage.
Having come from a country, which most of you who are listening to this can probably tell I was originally from the UK, where we don't have an MLS system, real estate here is so smooth. Does it have its issues at times? Yes, there's always complications, but generally speaking, it is a cooperative system that provides maximum exposure to homeowners. So when you don't have that system, it's unbelievable the difficulty in getting your house promoted. So and people sharing. So as I say, back in the UK, if Andrew and I work for different companies like we do here, Andrew couldn't sell my listings and vice versa. So you pick a company and that's the company that you stay with. They have to sell your listing. Nobody else can view it. So it becomes problematic. So back in 1888, if you can believe it, the first real estate board was created in Vancouver. So that's the oldest real estate board in the country. Ours was in 1921, so they were a long time before us. But it was designed.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Eh?
Happy 100th birthday, by the way.
Yes.
101, I guess now.
101, and we'll talk a bit more what we did for our 101. Well, let's jump in right now with that. So what we did in last year for our centennial year we provided 120,000 to Habitat. So yeah, so that's what we did for our centennial, was we provided 120,000 to Habitat for Humanity to go towards building homes.
Excellent.
So
and we've been involved. I remember again at my time on the board going and volunteering with other directors and other members to help build homes for Habitat for Humanity, and then also being involved in the Hero Work program and other programs that are helping folks in the greater wider world out here, the local community.
Yeah. Hero Works is another fabulous organization for sure. And yeah, so many opportunities for all of us at different levels. I mean, that's the great thing. I remember I was down there one Saturday, and I'm not a carpenter, I'm not an electrician, but I painted. So I painted doors for a whole day. It was great fun. And that was for the Rainbow Kitchen.
Nice.
So yeah, and they set up a great and the difference between when when they start and when they finish is just phenomenal. And all of these people donate their time, so you get all of these great organizations sending people over, and these people come in and work. So they have the carpenters and electricians. So every trade you can think of, and every non-trade, there's always something we can do. Clean up.
Yeah,
there's always something.
It's all of service, and it's all helpful.
Yeah.
And
oh, losing you again.
For our board, there's lots of volunteer opportunities. There's committees to volunteer on and to be interacting with. There's task forces where there's always some help needed. There's volunteer opportunities. I was out at there was a triathlon, and I was out cheering people on and at one of the checkpoints recently, and that was a board-led volunteer opportunity. And one of the things that in addition to just the feel-good part of this and giving back to the community, is you get to meet and interact with your colleagues in a way that's a little bit different.
Yes.
And this goes back to the cooperative piece about the MLS. The multiple listing service is a cooperative program. It's designed to, again, as Karen said, open up the system so that even though I might list a property with my brokerage Laura LePage, and back in the days, so now we have the opportunity to market that home all throughout North America, but any realtor in BC can bring a buyer and be assured that they will get cooperation from myself, the listing agent, and we work cooperatively in that way. And it just really helps to move and streamline the system for people buying and selling homes.
Absolutely. And as you say, though, point out, Andrew, it is really interesting to meet your fellow realtors in situations where you're not in the agency relationship. Which of course is what we all work with for consumers, and just get to know those people. And so once you get to know people, it's like, so Andrew and I doing a deal, we know there's a level of cooperation there because we know each other. We know that the other one is 100% working in the best interest of their clients. But how do we get there? How do we cooperate with each other in order to achieve the best goal for both of our clients? And that's where the MLS and these opportunities are so important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you want to say about, before you do, I had another question for you.
Yep.
Tell me, I know the answer to this, but tell me the difference between a realtor. Well, can anyone call themselves a realtor if they have their real estate license?
No. In order to be classified as a realtor, you have to be a member of a board. So anyone, once they take their real estate license, they can sell real estate, but they can't classify themselves as a realtor. You have to be a licensed member of a board.
And if you're a member of a board, you have to be a member of the Canadian Real Estate Association as well.
And that is also the only way that you can get onto the MLS.
Access to MLS as well through the boards.
Yeah, through the boards.
So Now there are agents out there. A good example would be some commercial agents who don't need to use or want to use the MLS system. They actually do use a system, I guess, what Karen referred to in Britain, where they are exclusive. There is no cooperation, and they are out there marketing this commercial building as the sole representative of the seller. And if someone wants to bring a buyer to it, that agent bringing a buyer would have to have their own agreements for commission and work that out directly with the with their buyer clients. So these people may not necessarily have to be able to call themselves a realtor, but they can be working in real estate if they have got their license.
Correct.
Interesting distinction. Anyway, that was fun.
Yeah. Any other questions you want to throw at me?
One other one. And that is, I'm sure that, I mean, one of the things that the board and there's the regulators do is some of the oversight. And so there's a complaints process, and our board has a complaint structure. And so maybe you can talk just a little bit about that and what how that works really briefly, and how someone might.
We have the Professional Standards Committee. So if somebody had a complaint about a realtor or the way a transaction was handled, there's two processes. You can either go to the regulator, who deals with certain aspects. The regulator actually will deal with all aspects, but there are certain aspects that we can deal with at the board, and there's certain aspects. So there's no financial opportunity through anything through the real estate board. So, but if you had a complaint about me or about Andrew, then you would take us to the real estate board, and the real estate board then deals with that complaint. So they send out interviewers, they interview the people, they look at the scenarios, they talk to everybody involved, and then they make a decision based on the real estate board's regulations.
Yeah.
So anything through the real estate board regulatory system is what we can deal with at the board. Anything else is dealt with by the regulator, so BCFSA.
Yeah, and these complaints sometimes come from our colleagues when one colleague has been wronged by another, and sometimes from the public. And then it's the colleague to colleague one doesn't generally go up the ladder to the regulator. Well, I guess it could.
Correct.
But
it could, depending on.
And then,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the stick that the board has is really, fining, mandatory education. It could even be the removal of that agent's license, or at least a temporary suspension. If you really want to get an agent's attention, suspend their license.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen at board level. That goes to the regulator. So it's the regulator that deals with licensing. We don't deal with licensing. So yes, we can deal with education, and we can implement a fine.
Right.
So, but the education piece is a really critical part of that as well. So that if we feel that there is an element of education missing in this licensee, then yes, and it's at their time and their expense, that they have to redo whatever courses we recommend that they have to do in order to make sure that they're clear on where their area is missing.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Karen. Did you have anything else on your agenda that you wanted to share, or make sure that you illustrated about what you do at the board?
Policy board is community relations, which we talked about quite a bit, and then the government liaison with local MLAs, which I did talk about a bit about whilst you were missing. So we did, whilst you were MIA, I sort of mentioned that and what we've been talking about, especially this year, and what we'd like to see happening. And of course, for our membership, we have a new real estate. Well, we don't have a new real estate board. We have a vastly improved real estate board. And I do want to sort of take this opportunity to say that wasn't really done to make it look pretty. Whilst that did happen, as Andrew will remember from being a director, there was a lot wrong with the board. I mean, we had a buried oil tank, if you can believe it, roof. We had the systems inside the building. And what we discovered once they started renovating, that one of the exterior walls, if a guy the size of Andrew had taken a good stumble and fallen against it, he would have landed on the ground floor. And this was from the second floor. So the board, yes.
There was a fake wall.
The classroom wall was so rotten on the interior that, yes. Luckily,
it makes it sound really bad, but we had a beautiful. Our old board was a nice looking building, but it really could use a refresh.
Yeah.
But historically, and it was always you know, if we had an education event in there and people were up in the upper classroom, half the class was too hot, half the class was too cold. The HVAC system was never working properly, and it really needed a lot more care and feeding than just some fixing of some systems. So it got a full refurbish.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you get to that point where there's so much needs to be redone that you know, there's no point in spending the money on just one piece because it's piecemeal and it never works. So we took the plunge and actually did it. So we've been saving for a few years. Mm-hmm. So we did that. So it's a very nice place for our staff to work, and with staff shortages that everybody is experiencing right now, it's great to have a place that's nice for people to come to work.
And I just say too, you know, our real estate board owns that building. I mean, I know it's some partially that we financed, you know, the repairs and so forth, the refurbish. So it's not like free and clear, but we have a really well-funded, well-organized real estate board that supports its membership, and through that supports the community. I remember from my time as a director just how often when we traveled to go to various various symposiums and networking events and educational events, the National Association of Realtors conference.
Excuse me.
How often other people from other boards across Canada would compliment the Victoria Real Estate Board and how well organized and how progressive it was. So we, and I'm sure it's just getting better and better. So,
yeah, no, it's a great, this is a great board. We've got wonderful staff, and we have directors who really care and are dedicated. And of course, we'll have an election soon. Yeah. Again, for any realtors watching, we'll have an election. So get out and vote for the people that are coming in, and appreciate the time that they're putting into it. And remember that they'll be nervous giving their speeches, and be considerate of that, because it is very nerve-wracking to stand up and talk in front of your colleagues.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, Andrew and I both know that from several experiences. Yeah. So yeah, it is.
I really want to thank you for coming on today, and really thank you for taking over when I was MIA.
Not a problem.
I just want to share with you that I know that my computer has been giving me trouble lately, so I ended up getting a new one, and it's going to get unboxed today. So
way to go.
We are working through these problems.
Oh, the world of technology. It's wonderful when it's working well. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, Karen. And
thank you. And let's say if Jane's watching this, I hope she's having a good time away. I think she's in off. I'm not sure where she is right now, but yeah, good for her for taking some time off and getting away so that she's nice and refreshed when she gets back.
Yeah, she needs it. She deserves it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, I'm going to end broadcast. You just hold on a sec, okay?
All right, I'm holding.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.